This is the BMW 2 Series 218i, which you could have gotten in 2017 until now. It's the latest cabrio or cabriolet, wherever you're from the 2 Series, and the only one that you could have gotten since 2017. This one is the sport model, and you could have gotten a couple of different ones. There's the standard one, there's the luxury, the advantage, and the sport, and also the M Sport line, which are all different and all have different standard features in them. But this one is the sport line, which is also pretty nice. So in this video, we're going to look at all the different details about the car, if you should still buy one, considering it's 6 to 5 years old, depending on when you bought it, and we're going to take it for a spin and tell you everything about it. So I hope you enjoy the video. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. The first thing we're going to look at is the exterior. So this model you can get for, back then, for 38,000 euros, because it is the sport line. There's 5 different options you can get. There's a standard option, there's the luxury option, there's the sport version, the M Sport, and also the advantage option, which are all different prices and all come with standard, different standard options. This one has the standard LED fog lights and LED headlights down here and up here, which are standard. The sport also comes, you could make these black, those are chrome, but the sport just comes with a more sportier look, which in my opinion looks pretty nice. And just in general, BMW is one of those companies or those cars which age very well. They don't look bad in, let's say, another 10 years. This just looks competitive even though it's 6 years old. Okay, looking under the hood now, you just have to tap below the wheel 2 times and then it pops up. The nice thing is, it pops up automatically. You don't have to do anything. In here we have a twin turbo 136 horsepower 3-cylinder engine, which is pretty nice. Nothing great, but it just produces good amount of torque and engine power to glide you nicely along the road and also have you on the Autobahn at a pretty good speed. So it can top around 220 kilometers. That's around the top speed, but it is pretty nice. It's not too heavy, but obviously because it's a cabrio, it's going to be a little bit heavier. You can get a couple of different options. This is basically the lowest one that you can get, 218i. So it has the least amount of horsepower. But if you opt for instance, the 230i, you're going to get a lot more horsepower, producing a lot more fun, around 200 and 200 plus going on. Or going upwards. But also if you want to spend extra money on a diesel version, for instance, the 218 diesel would have costed you $4,000 extra or euros extra compared to the petrol one. So that is one thing that you might want to consider. Let's move on over to the side now. Moving on over to the side, the 218i comes standard with 16 or 17-inch wheels, which you can get. This one is 17 inches, looks pretty nice. Pretty big. If you want to go for bigger ones, the 18-inch, those come with the 230i at an extra cost of around 900 euros. The 17 inches, these ones are also standard, not standard, they cost an extra 700 euros or 550 depending on which one you want to get. Also, if you want to upgrade to the M Sport brakes, which these don't have, those look disgusting. They're going to cost you an extra around 400 euros. Then, if you really want to show off, you can get the sport line, or it always comes with the sport line if you have the sport line, or the luxury. The luxury is just like this plated on, kind of integrated luxury thing, which looks pretty cool, but if you really want to show off and show I have the luxury line because I can afford it. Then up here you have your heated side mirrors, which are pretty nice, and they also look pretty sporty and elegant with the integrated indicator in there as well. You have your, that's actually one thing, you can still open this with a key, very nice, but it has keyless go in general. Up here you have a 2 fabric roof, which is pretty nicely insulated, and it doesn't obstruct really when you're going at higher speeds. You can hear the sound a little bit, but it doesn't sound that bad. Back here we have an antenna, which I don't like, so what I usually do is I do this, which means you can't have anything in there, but that's what I like to do. It just makes the car look a little bit nicer. But that's the outside of it. Moving on to the back, we obviously up here have our antenna, which is just stupid. We have our nice little taillights. Again, BMW, one of those companies which just, they age very well. From the back, it even looks like it could still be a new thing that just came out, even though it's 6 years old. Just BMW, always great when it comes to the aging part. Down there we have a pretty, in my opinion, big exhaust, which turned black after a little while, because I don't actually think you can get those standard in black. That's one thing. Let's look at the trunk now. The trunk is one of the biggest things I hate about this car. By the way, this antenna is great. I actually love it now. The thing is, it doesn't have that much volume. That's one thing because of the cabrio. up here you can see this beautiful thing, but if you tip it over when the roof is up, but if the roof is down, you have to pull this over, and it just reduces the whole volume in there so much, which I absolutely hate. But you can obviously flip those over in the front as well if you want. One thing you can also do is you can put on or flip this lever, which is gonna flip the front, and then you have a nice little boot in there where you can put your golf clubs in, whatever you want. You can actually fit 2 golf clubs in here, or 2 golf bags. Clubs would be a little bit small. So that's pretty good. So if you want to go for a nice little outside run, you can put it on, you can put some golf bags in there and just enjoy a nice little, beautiful. That is the outside. Let's get into the inside and see how the Cabrio looks from the inside. Let's go into the interior. The first thing we're going to do is check out the back, how easily we can get in there. So what you do is you flip over the switch, well, this button, you go in there, and then you try to go in here. So how much space do we have? Okay, well, that doesn't work very nicely. There you go, I can sit in here like that, but 6 foot, and no, it's definitely not comfortable. And one thing that is also very stupid is you can't have a wind deflector in here, or the wind deflector, unless you're like 2 foot and you can sit in here like that. But other than that, it's just going to go over your head, and you're basically going to be beheaded. Obviously, you can put the seat a little bit forward, but yeah, there's not much space in here, and obviously this car is meant for 2, but you can be in there for a couple of minutes if you really want to go in there, but not at high speeds, otherwise your hair's going to fly off. So what we're going to do is we're going to check out the interior. I'm going to hop on over to the other side and we'll check it out. Okay, let's take the car for a spin. So because it is already 6 years old, it's going to feel a little bit sluggier, but it doesn't have that much miles on here. 33,000, not that much considering how old it is. But the car comes with some very nice standards, which is pretty nice. So it comes with anti-lock system, or ABS. It also comes with DCT, so you can change your dynamics of your traction control, which is very nice. And you can also have the in-cornering braking system, which is also pretty nice. So you can brake pretty nicely when you're going into a corner. One thing that I'm not a big fan of is the steering wheel when it comes to how it performs, due to the fact that the steering wheel, it doesn't feel that direct. You can change that when you're in sport mode, which you can change by pressing onto the sport, and you can also, if you go into sport plus, it's going to turn off the traction control. But going back to the wheel, the steering doesn't feel that direct. I'm not the biggest fan of it. It kind of feels a little bit sluggish, which is not that great, but if you're in comfort mode and you're just cruising around, it is good enough for you to enjoy the drive, which is pretty nice. Consumption is also pretty decent on here. You're gonna have around 7 to 8 liters per 100 kilometers, depending on where you drive. I've been doing a lot of city driving, so it's a little bit higher at around 8.5, which is pretty decent, but you can get it down to 6 if you drive in comfort the whole time. Other than that, it is pretty nice. Let's go into the interior a little bit. The BMW obviously ages well, just like it does on the outside. On the inside, it does the same thing. It doesn't feel old. It doesn't also feel that new, because obviously it's a little bit older now. But you do have 8 different options or different buttons which you can select here, which is going to change your where you can bind stuff like to that. For instance, your radio, you can bind phone numbers, so you can just call people in there and stuff like that. By the way, the suspension it's a little bit stiff because it's also pretty low, but I'm also in sport mode, so it's going to change the damping a little bit, but it doesn't feel bad. It doesn't feel bad at all. So it's actually pretty fun to drive. Even though it doesn't have much horsepower, it feels pretty nice. And if you go in comfort, obviously those little bumps are gonna go out a little bit, but you can feel every single bump in here, which is not the greatest thing, but that's just how it is. You also have 2 control zones in here for your climate, which doesn't come standard with it. It comes with 1 climate zone, which you can change if you get a higher option, which I think is another couple of €100 to add that. Also, heating on the car is a little bit expensive. It's, I think, €600 for heated seats. Also, you can get a heated steering wheel for around €300. Obviously, like I said, you can't get it anymore because the car is not in production anymore, but you can get one. So if you're looking for a car, definitely gets heated steering in this, because it's just, if you're driving around on the outside with the roof down, we can't right now because it's a little bit cold, or we could, but we don't want to freeze to death. You can get that heated steering wheel, which is going to add a lot of nicer options in there. Going on to the performance of the car, the brakes and the throttle, you have to press them down pretty far to actually get something. Well, not the brake. The brake brakes pretty nicely, but when it comes to the performance of the throttle, you really got to press that thing down to get the performance out of it, which is not the greatest thing, but obviously it does its job because only you have 136 horsepower. If you're really looking for some more horsepower, get the 230, the 220i. Those have plenty of horsepower for you. With 200 plus horsepower, you're just going to be cruising around here, which is pretty nice because the car is not that heavy. So my opinion on the car: if you're in the market for a car with 4 seats, it's a no-go. Don't get this car because in the back you can't sit in there if you're going for a topless or top-down drive. If you're looking for a car with 2 people for a decent price with some luxurious and comfortable feeling to it, good car for that, definitely, because it also hasn't dropped that much in price considering it's only 6 years old. So if you're really looking for something like that, this feels nice. It has the nice enough power to get you around cruising in there with a good amount of wind noise being deflected, or wind being deflected, which is pretty nice. But on the Autobahn, yeah, you can't drive that with a top down. This just is not going to do that for you because of the wind. It's just going to break your ears. But in my opinion, it's a good buy if you're looking for a 2-people car with comfort and for a decent price at around 30,000 or 25,000, considering how much you can get it for now. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video. Have a good one.